Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime podcast, a show where we dive deep into some of the craziest and scariest stories from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryaan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And Aishwarya, I have been saying this one dialogue for 5 years now.
And I've been butting in saying I'm Aishwarya for 5 years now. What a crazy ride it's been.
The first episode of the Desi Crime podcast came out on 13th June 2020.
Yeah.
Exactly 5 years ago.
Right.
And we thought we'd do something special for you guys, which is a special Chai Chithi episode. A, because it's a Chai Chithi after a very long time. We wanted to kind of make you desperate so you come watch this one. But also, we will sprinkle in some of the most beautiful, some of the most terrifying, so the craziest memories of running Desi Crime.
Mm-hmm.
But the craziest memory I trace back to the day this all began.
Right.
And I remember that day vividly. This day was, long before the first episode of Desi Crime ever came.
Months
it was
before.
a winter night in our college in Michigan, in our dorm room, where the seed of this podcast was sowed as a consequence of you, as always, forcing me to listen to a Crime Junkies episode.
An episode that had really stuck with me, something I'd been thinking. I don't, for the life of me, remember what episode that was, but something I'd just been thinking about for a few weeks now, and I really, really wanted Aryaan to listen to how unbelievable this story
was. And I
was.
don't, for the life of me, like listening to true crime, especially at night when you're supposed to go to sleep.
Right.
Calmness and peace are synonymous with sleep, not murder and kidnapping. But as we found out, apparently that's what
a lot of
pulls
people disagree.
a lot of you. And I listened to this entire episode, and once it's done, I quip at Aishwarya, Ash, why do you just listen to white crime podcasts?
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of crime happening back home.
Yeah.
Why don't you listen to those stories?
And it was just like a light bulb moment. We both had our phones in our hands. I didn't have an answer to that question. Why don't I listen to anything other than podcasts from the West? And we went on a hunt for anyone doing this, either in India or in South Asia, anyone doing a good job with true crime without sensationalizing it, making it, really insensitive to the victims. And we found no one, good or bad. There was nobody doing it.
And so for some reason we thought we could do it.
We're cocky if you can't tell. We think we're cool. Whether or not the audience agrees is a different matter entirely. But we thought we would actually be good at this because up until that point, we'd been debating back in high school.
Asha and I had been head girl and head boy together.
So we loved being on stage. We
Me
loved
being
talking.
the head boy, her the head girl, in case you got confused.
No confusion there. Thanks. But we had been part of the Model UN teams. And so I think we just thought we'd be good orators. We'd be able to do justice to these stories. But then life kind of just happened in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, just like any extremely passionate idea a youngster has, we gave it our all for
5 hours.
For a couple of months. We loved the idea.
Months.
Ash and I, we loved the idea phase of things, you know. So before the podcast ever began, months before it did, the name was finalized. The logo was created. Ideas for which cases to do. And then it all went cold.
Yeah.
Fun story about the name of Desi Crime. Now, you might not know this, but Desi Crime, before we arrived at this name, had many names. Some of the front runners, as I recall, were Primetime Crime.
Which was my idea.
No, that was my idea.
It was.
Primetime Crime?
Primetime Crime was...
I can pull up my notes.
This is going to turn into a fight.
I can pull up my
idea.
Regardless, the name that we arrived at, Desi Crime, was my idea.
That was his idea. But the behind the Desi Crime, that was my idea.
Okay. Desi Crime was my idea. Primetime Crime was my idea. The point being that we debated these things fiercely. In fact, the became a hot topic. Ash and I couldn't come to agree on it. So we did a sort of family crowdsourcing of whether the should remain. And, people took the stance that Justin Timberlake took in, Social Network, which was...
Drop the. Just Facebook.
Cut the, keep it classy. But Ash insisted on the, and I
really
think,
liked it.
And I think we're better off for it.
I agree. I think it's made all the difference. I don't know if you all would be here if there wasn't the in the beginning of the name.
The listeners of the Desi Crime.
Exactly.
And we did all of that, and that was it. That was it for months.
Until I think
COVID.
COVID, yeah. So by the time 2019 ended, 2020 began. In the initial months of 2020, January, we'd already started hearing of cases of COVID around the world. And I remember particularly this very vivid thought in my mind, because we all had plans for that summer. We had internships, we had travel plans. Remember very vividly thinking that there's no way these cases can lead to those plans getting cancelled, because there were some people who were speculating that that may be the case. In my mind, modern medicine is far enough where January cases are not gonna end
and
up.
it might be tried to reminisce COVID,
Right.
but please understand that it literally laid the foundation for what you're listening to right now.
Yeah, it did. And
So college shut down.
college
in
shut down
March,
by the time
effectively.
March came. 2 days before my birthday, college was like, we're done. It's wraps. Everyone go back
Yeah.
home. For us, everyone going back home meant going all the way back to India. We were on one of the last flights
Back to India.
back to India.
And we reach India and we do what every COVID victim, COVID circumstances lockdown victim does, is we binge Housewife of Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And Survivor and
I
other
made him watch the most girly stuff in that time
Trash.
period.
the
I
best
made him watch
trash.
Legally Blonde. That's not trash. I think that's just a classic. But Real Housewives of Beverly Hills veers on
Yeah.
trash, in my opinion. We were one step away from keeping up with the Kardashians
Yeah.
territory. Just didn't quite get there.
Thank
but
God. I don't know what would have happened to me. But we were doing all of this. And then one night we decided, and the lines between night and day were blurred during COVID, but one night we decided, hey, let's see if there are any other Indian crime podcasts, since we had that amazing idea, that unique idea that only we could have. And of course, it wasn't a unique idea. And lo and behold, there were 3 episodes of the first Indian true crime podcast.
Yeah.
I hate to accept that truth, run by 2 wonderful lawyers called Cooney.
Yeah.
And when we saw that, the type A in me and Ash just couldn't accept that. It was an unacceptable thought that
Yeah.
we were lazy. We didn't act on our idea. So within 2 days, we spend our student job savings to buy equipment. The audio interface, we still use the same one actually. Basic mics, wires. And sort of
We still use the same wires too, actually. That's funny.
yeah, that's funny. GarageBand on our laptop, and
Yeah.
within 2 days, everything was set up. The scripts were done, and that's how you got your first ever Desi Crime episode on June 13th, 2020, which was Burari. And Thug Life also we released simultaneously, the Gabbar Singh one. We will get into how creepy and amazing Burari was and how pivotal it was as an episode to the podcast we eventually became. But Burari was a haunting story.
It was.
And if Desi Crime has given our community anything, it has given them a segment for haunting stories.
Absolutely.
That segment is called Chai Chithi. And in this special episode, we will have not just amazing BTS and behind the scenes and bloopers of how Desi Crime came to be who we are. It'll also have some fun freaking stories for you. So with that, the
Let's get
first
on with it.
Chai Chithi story of the day. The story is titled My Spooky Story. Not a very innovative title, but
It's
I
okay.
will take it. Thank you for writing. Hi, Aishwarya and Aryaan. I'm Aditi, and I've been a devoted listener of your podcast for 2 whole years now. Honestly, I'd never thought I'd write in, but something about this story has haunted me for so long, I just couldn't resist anymore. Let me take you back to the summer of 2019. It was a Friday night, one of those rare weekends when my parents were actually home.
That's not a very nice thing to feel as a child.
That's sad.
That is sad.
That's just sad.
Okay, but parents are busy. Parents work. It's a privilege to be able to spend time with your child. I really
Okay,
do
alright,
believe
okay.
that.
Now don't make me
But
feel
no-
bad.
Sorry.
I mean, I'm just trying to say parents should be around
This
their
could
kids.
go either way. Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Of course.
both of them work demanding jobs, as you said, and I was an only child, mostly left in the care of our live-in house help. Is-
I mean,
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
explain. That's not ideal parenting. Let's call her ex-auntie. This kid is very innovative in their titles. That evening, my parents were in the living room. Ex-auntie, it's like Elon Musk's nanny would be.
that's horrible.
That
That's
evening,
so bad.
my parents were in the living room, relaxing over wine after a rough work week, enjoying a moment of peace together. I, on the other hand, was bored out of my mind. So I begged ex-auntie to play hide and seek with me. It was my turn to seek. As I wandered around searching for her, I entered my parents' bedroom. Now, their room had a walk-in closet attached, and connected to that closet was a small bathroom. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, and a dim light was coming through the small exhaust window. To this day, I have no idea why there was light outside that window at that hour, but it was enough to illuminate the space to make out the things in the bathroom. I heard shuffling sounds coming from behind the bathroom door. Naturally, I assumed ex-auntie was hiding there. I had an idea. Instead of catching her right away, I tricked her into thinking I hadn't seen her. I figured she'd come out, I'd jump out and scare her. So I turned off the lights in the room and stood silently, waiting in the dark. The only light in the room now came from the bathroom. And that's when I saw it. A silhouette. It peeked out slowly from behind the bathroom door. And no, this wasn't ex-auntie. This figure was tall and slender, completely at odds with her short 5-foot frame. It was pitch black in color, standing out in the dimly lit space like it absorbed the shadows around it. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. I squinted, trying to adjust, but the longer I stared, the more real it got. It was when I peeked back in, I realized something was standing behind the door. My body completely froze. I wanted to scream, to run, anything, but it was as if I was paralyzed. I stood there in utter silence for what felt like an eternity, but probably was just 2 minutes in reality. Then, ex-auntie suddenly walked into the room, heading into the dresser to check on me. The second I saw her, my body unfroze, and I screamed out and burst into tears. My parents rushed in, confused and panicked. In the days that followed, I developed a high fever out of nowhere, and not long after that, we shifted houses to move closer to my mom's workplace. But the story did not end there. One night in our new apartment, I was taking the trash out and decided to use the stairs instead of the elevator. As I opened the door to the stairwell, I froze again. At the top of the staircase, tucked in a corner between the railings, stood the same figure. Black, tall, still, watching. Even in the subdued light of the stairwell, I saw it clearly through the gaps in the railing. My stomach dropped, but this time I decided not to react. I forced myself to keep walking downstairs, heart pounding, palms sweating, trying to muster courage. And also because I didn't want to scream and wake the building up, just to make a fool out of myself, because I did not think anyone would believe me. Fast forward to 2023. My mom and I had moved back to India because of a family emergency, while my dad stayed back in Dubai. We returned to our house in India, a place that had been locked up since 2015, so that's 8 years it's been locked up. Our home has an open kitchen, and to separate it from the living room, there's a divider with open cubbies for souvenirs and soft lights shining on the souvenirs. We usually left those lights on at night so the house wouldn't be completely dark. One night, I went to pour myself a glass of water, and as I turned around, I saw it again.
Aryaan, I don't know if this person mentions how old they are when this is happening or not, but I'm assuming they're
Doesn't mention.
young-ish. When kids mention something like this, elders have the propensity to say that this is an imaginary friend, you're just imagining it, everyone's had them, I used to have them, this, that, the other thing. But in my experience and from all the stories I've heard, children don't tend to create imaginary friends that deeply terrify them. And that's, when I think back to my childhood friends, it was like a little tiny friendly rat running around the house, or 2 little girls with pigtails or something like that. They were called Sinda and Kamma. I don't know why.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell.
Aryaan's face, for those of you watching on video right
You're
now.
saying this so
He's
casually as
appalled.
it's normal to have imaginary
It is
friends
normal
with
to have
Chimba
imaginary
and Chimbak and a rat running around.
Sinda and Kamma.
You sound like
yaar.
Ganesh ji, you like you had
behave
a...
yourself.
What was his rat called? Ganesh ji's rat?
No.
Anyway, the point being, it's not normal. Gods have rats as friends. Not you.
What were you dealing with when you were a child? Why didn't you have imaginary
I was a
friends?
level-headed kid. I ate mud, by the way.
You ate mud?
I ate mud.
Isn't that a calcium deficiency thing? The chalk in the mud by kids? I think it is. That's what I've heard. That's what the lore suggests.
I would argue that it's quite delicious. I also ate
This
chalk.
is a level-headedness he was just
I
talking
ate
about.
chalk as well.
There we go. It's a calcium deficiency that got to his head.
Yeah. Explains a lot.
It does. But no, those of you who have had imaginary friends, write in the comments. Have any of you have...
Yeah, tell us the name of your imaginary friends.
Give us a
what
little background story.
yeah.
What were their professions? How old were they? This, that, the other. And tell me if they were
Professions.
scary or not. Because I
Yeah.
think it's unnatural for a kid to have scary imaginary friends. Which is me trying to say, I don't think this person's imagining this.
Scary or not, here I come. Through the divider in the far corner of the hall, that same dark figure, yet again. This time I wasn't just scared, I was terrified. Not just because I saw it again, but because I realized it followed me all the way from Dubai. I tried to ignore it, went back to sleep, told myself it was my imagination. But after that night, strange things started happening. Locks of hair began appearing in random places around the house. My mom swore she never cut her hair, and neither did I. I find bruises on my body with no memory of getting hurt. I know it doesn't sound like much. Babe, it sounds like a lot. Even I was skeptical at first, but it was constant and unsettling. But then came the final nail in the coffin. One day, I was out with two friends at the mall. One of them was running late, so my other friend and I decided to kill time. We noticed the shady-looking palm reader outside the mall and thought it would be fun to mess around. We didn't believe in any of this stuff anyway. He glanced at my friend's hand and brushed it off quickly. Then he looked at mine. After a few moments, he said, quote, "वो तुम्हारे साथ यहाँ तक आ गया." End quote. It followed you all the way here.
That's terrifying.
I was stunned. I asked what he meant. वो काली परछाई, he said, अभी भी तुम्हारे साथ ही है. That dark shadow, it's still with you. A chill went down my spine. I didn't even have to ask what he was referring to. I knew. Like an idiot, instead of leaving, I asked more. What else did he know about me? And then he started saying things exact, personal details about my life. He even described events that led my mom and me to rush back to India, things he couldn't have possibly known. These were details only my family and I knew. I had never disclosed the real reasons to my friends. I was stunned into silence. And then he looked at me seriously and said, "Beta, वो तुम्हारे साथ खाती है, सोती है, इससे पीछा छुड़ाओ. Child, it eats with you, sleeps with you. Get rid of it." I was left shaken to my core. When I got home, I told my mom everything, expecting her to scold me for entertaining such nonsense. To my surprise, the next day she went to meet the same guy without telling him anything about me. She sent me to a different part of the mall and spoke to him alone, to test if he was genuine. He read her palm, then without any mention of me, he said, "Please look after your daughter. There's something wrong." She called me back, and the second he saw me, he started blurting out everything again. I have goosebumps right now. Things that confused me clearly shocked my mom to her core. Her face went pale. He told her to get a havan done immediately, a ritual, along with some other rituals to get rid of the presence. But he warned, it would only last for a year. If we didn't repeat the ritual, the entity could return. On the way home, I pressed my mom to tell me what the man had said. That's when she finally confessed something that changed everything. Back when she first got married to my dad, there was a female spirit that had attached itself to her. It haunted her for years, from her hearing screams, the house a mess even after being cleansed, utensils crashing to the ground in broad daylight. Once, it even pushed her onto the road while she was jogging. Eventually, she thought she had gotten rid of it. But according to this man, it hadn't left. It just switched hosts. It had attached itself to me. I still don't know what to make of all of this. Was it real? Was it a series of coincidences, a psychological spiral, or something else entirely? All I know is, it's been almost a year since the ritual, and I can't help but wonder, will the ghost baddie be back?
Oh my god, that is so scary.
Don't call her ghost baddie.
That is very, very
Why are you
Gen
triggering the
Z.
ghost?
Yeah, that
Guys,
is kind of
I'm
hilarious.
all for us Gen Z and our lexicon, but let's be a little conservative when it comes to ghosts, because I don't think they'd appreciate your riz, okay? For God's sake, don't call a ghost that's haunting you a
and then
baddie.
push your mom on the street while she's jogging.
That's bad. That's not baddie. Okay?
Remove the last syllable there.
Jesus Christ, that's scary.
Terrifying. And something about spirits that breach the border of touching you. You know, the ones that whisper in your ear and the ones that move shit in your room.
Yeah.
Those are one genre.
No,
of
this
ghosts.
sounds like the
This one
Desi plot
is-
of Insidious, dude.
Yeah, no, this
One
is
ghost that's
terrifying.
been, it's like inheriting a spirit.
What's the logic behind ghosts attaching themselves to some people? What's
I
the
mean,
common notion?
I don't think there's any logic in any of this
No,
because I
but
don't
what
believe in
does
it.
the
but
community say?
the community.
happens?
The community says, I think it's about vulnerable people, sick people, old people. I was in fact reading this book. I'm forgetting the name of the author. It's called Agora. It's a 3-series book.
Sure.
And it's about Tantra and talked about how where the ego is weak, where the identification with the self is not the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
That's the host, a spirit, especially an evil spirit, tries to attach themselves
Oh,
to,
very interesting.
because the self is so weak that it can be replaced with another sort of soul, another consciousness.
Which, interestingly, isn't that kind of the purpose of spirituality and mindfulness to some degrees, the dissolution of ego? So are we making ourselves more susceptible to spirits when we're disassociated?
Okay, so funnily enough, that book talks about this, and it differentiates between the Western conception of ego and
Oh, how interesting.
yeah. So it doesn't talk of ego in the pejorative way
Sure.
of haughtiness or being arrogant, but ego as literally
As
the
self.
relationship between the soul / consciousness to the body.
I see.
And in fact, I would say to some degree, a lot of forms of Buddhism and meditation bolster that understanding of the self. So
Not the
ego dissolution
detachment.
in the Western sense, but not detachment necessarily.
I see.
Although I'm out of my field when I'm talking about these things, whatever little I know. But yeah, so I mean, it's fascinating. But I think talking of
Creepy
spirituality,
story.
talking of spirits, brings us to the first ever episode of Desi Crime,
the Burari episode.
the Burari episode.
What a terrifying, terrifying case. It was fairly recent in terms of Delhi's collective history, psyche.
And nobody had covered it before
Nobody
Aishwarya
had
did.
covered it. And I remember I sat with that story for so long. I sat with the stories of the victims. I wasn't used to writing for an audience ever. Like back in college, the money we made that we spent on the podcasting equipment, it was made by writing for the college newspaper, you know. But I hadn't ever written a story, someone else's very real, very emotional, very heartbreaking story for an audience. So I sat with this material for a really, really long time. I wanted to do justice to the stories of victims while also being sensitive to overarching topics like mental health, which was so pertinent in this, or religion, which tied into this story as well. And then I came up with this structure for that episode that even to this day, people come up to me and say, just the way that episode began.
It was cinematically written before Aishwarya and I had any understanding of cinematic writing. I wouldn't claim to know that even now. Of course, we are better writers than we were 5 years ago, better orators. But that specific script, that specific episode just laid the foundation stone for the way we are going to write these stories.
Right.
Because it really draws listeners in. And the way, I mean, I remember the scene you set. I have a visual memory of
Me
the
too.
written thing you produced of the guy carrying milk and discovering those bodies. In fact, Ash went to great extents to find the video of the
depths of the internet, the dark,
dark,
horrid depths of the internet.
like fringes, horrible websites with
Yeah.
godforsaken shit that I hope none of you ever see, which I've seen.
Yeah, I used to scroll it like this, like
Yeah.
just type it and then.
Yeah, I unfortunately scrolled it like this, which wasn't the right approach. And there's an image of me looking at that video for the first time that our editor will put over here. But so Burari set off
Yeah.
a chain that today amounts to somewhere around 160 episodes.
Yep.
160 episodes that we have recorded from all over the world. From a frat house in Michigan to a car.
A freezing car. I once recorded in a car.
I record from an Italian grandma's kitchen, which was one of my favorite things. She's making tiramisu and I'm talking to you, recording this podcast. And I think there is immense gratitude, obviously, to the format of podcasting. 10, 20 years ago, if somebody wanted to make a crime show, it would require lakhs and lakhs of rupees or $1 million budget, for those who don't understand lakhs and lakhs, to produce something that would be high quality.
Or to be on radio, which was simple to produce. It had these, so many other strings attached, these channels to go through. It was all
Gatekeeping.
gatekept.
It was all
This is the
gatekept.
democratization of content.
The internet quite literally decentralized content and the ability to produce it. Yeah, and so we owe a huge debt of gratitude to the medium, but a huge debt of gratitude to those of you who tuned in.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I wasn't well versed with this, what a podcast could become. And I think to this day, I'm a greater consumer of podcasts than Aishwarya. Like, I consume more podcasts. I love podcasts, it's very funny to think that I've become one. Not a podcaster. Hope I never become a podcast series. That will not bode well
No,
for my
not
future.
in this genre.
It's because so many of you tuned in.
Yeah.
And, to think of the numbers we had initially, I mean, we used to look at, 1,000 listeners, 2,000 listeners, and used to marvel at that growth. We used to marvel at 500, 1,000 Instagram followers, and we'd lose our minds when we would touch a milestone like that. Because no shade to any other creator, but we never saw ourselves like that. Ash was studying pre-law. She wanted to become a lawyer. I was studying biology. I was dead set on becoming a biologist. And Desi Crime somehow
Wiggled its
its
way.
way in and then grew into something
Right.
fueled by you guys.
No, this is happy anniversary to Desi Crime. Happy 5 years of being on this incredible journey, not just to the two of us, but more so, I think, to
Yeah.
all of you that tune in to listen. Whether you started listening 5 years ago with that Burari episode, whether you've joined in this week, or whether you'll join in with this episode, for the very, very first time.
Yeah.
Aryaan and I have said this often on multiple different platforms, that we feel like we have an overwhelmingly positive audience.
Yeah.
We have a very loving and very caring audience. And it's not that there isn't criticism or feedback from you guys.
And rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Just last week, the whole Patreon debacle that happened, for which we miscommunicated. Desi Crime episodes will come as always.
Yeah, I think people misunderstood.
And we should have communicated better. But, we see your comments, and whenever there is feedback also to give, it's in a constructive, overwhelmingly constructive.
100%.
Often creators ask us, friends in the same space, how do you deal with the hate and all? And Ash and I just look at each other and go, we don't.
What hate?
What hate are you talking about?
Yeah. And this is not casual matter that we deal with, There is controversial issues here. There's conversations about mental health and religion and honor killings and what it means to be in love and this, that and the other thing. And those are all really touchy things that people hold really deeply
Yeah.
to themselves. And yet somehow we've created a community where these conversations are had easily, with candor, with honesty.
Yeah.
There's back and forth.
Yeah.
And it just feels amazing to produce content for a community
Yeah,
like that.
100%. I mean, in every aspect. It's so weird to say, but thank you for giving us a career.
100%. It wasn't meant to be like this.
It wasn't meant. I never thought I'm going to be doing this.
No, and the funny thing is, maybe you all don't know this, but the decision to do this full time is very recent.
Yeah.
Desi Crime is 5 years old, but that decision was being taken, I would say, at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
So it's a year and a half,
Yeah.
close to 2
As loving as you guys have been, the non-listening community, we've had our fair share of troubles that we have dealt with. Some of them could be Desi Crime stories in and of themselves.
100%.
One of those was when we went disappearing for 8-9 months in a prolonged conflict, I would say, to not enumerate the details.
Right.
But yeah, the access to our very podcast was illegally taken away by another company, and all that money that Ash and I made, thanks to you guys, we had to spend on lawyer fees. To give you an idea, we spent, I think, upwards of 10 lakhs.
Yeah. 100%.
Liquidating.
Which we were paying off up until pretty recently.
Pretty
it feels
recently.
like,
Yeah. I remember I had to sell Bitcoin and Ethereum that I had bought as a college kid.
You guys won't believe this. I was selling plasma in Michigan to earn money, to be able to buy the camera with which we've then set this up.
Yeah.
Literally this camera that you guys are seeing, this was bought from selling my plasma $100 for 60 ml.
I feel like I'm
Something
part
to
of
that
illicit orchid trading.
It was really unfortunate, guys. When I told my parents about it, they were heartbroken. But I don't know. We were helping fund our own educations to some degree.
Yeah.
I had purchased a car on my own. We did not foresee the situation legally we would land
legally.
ourselves in.
And so, it was 8-9. We can't. It's not that we can't get into the details. We just don't want to. We want to be more graceful than the ones we were dealing with. But in that 8-9 month period, we were certain that we had lost Desi Crime, okay? Or at least it was going to be a prolonged negotiation. And so, because our lawyers advised us in that period to not cover crime, That's why we started the IP Bhootbusters. And many of you were like, where's crime? We came for crime. And
We literally could not log into anything Desi Crime
and we
related.
couldn't even tell you because our lawyers advised us not to. So we
Yeah.
were like, enjoy the ghost stories. Well, we had so much fun producing our first ever show. We learned
Yeah.
so much. We had so much fun. And we're so glad that the final episode took off and that reel became what it did.
Yeah.
And that episode, Mehendipur Balaji episode, I mean, it's an insane episode. It's an insane story. If you are a non-human entity, if you're a demon. This is the exact opposite of every haunted place we've been to, yet somehow it manages to be really jarring. It was almost like producing a documentary. I think we learned how to do it. It was a small crew. Shaq, Evan, me, you,
Yeah.
Ayush as one of the editors, a bunch of other people that came on board and
Every
helped out.
driver in every city that
Every
helped us get around.
driver.
Our drivers were shit scared of wherever we
Bro,
took them. They were done with
They
us.
were done with us.
We're not having it at all.
And as Boothbusters was wrapping up, one day I got an idea to get Desi Crime back.
Yeah, and it worked.
And it
I'm
worked.
asleep and I wake up to a barrage of calls on my phone from Aryaan. And this was a tense period for us. There were all like legal developments pretty
Yeah.
much every day. And there were discussions
Shout
happening.
out Amarchand Mangaldas. Biggest law
you.
firm in India. Thank you for helping us out.
We're poor, but thanks. But I wake up to this barrage of calls on my phone from Aryaan and I'm, holy crap, something else has gone down. What has happened now? The only thing we had access to this entire time was Instagram. We were able to log in and change
Yeah.
our passwords and protect that. But I call him back and the news is what we've been waiting for months now, which is that he's found a way to log back in somehow through some email, old email connected still to something. And we finally got it back.
Yeah.
And that's when we decided to start this YouTube channel as well.
Yeah. It's end of 2023, like Aishwarya said, and we decided to make Desi Crime into Desi Studios. And, that company also was started from, the way Desi Crime equipment was purchased using student jobs. Desi Studios salaries and equipment and all these things were paid by all the money we had made before that. And I mean, I remember I was like, Tesla stock is high today, I'll sell all of it. Liquidating all of that, moving to Bombay.
Yeah.
And if I look back at it,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a stupid fucking decision because of the uncertainty involved.
100%.
But in that moment, the sureness we had, the sureness of where we are going to be and what we are going to, manifest is a weird word, but to some degree, yeah, what we will make true for ourselves. And here we are today, we're working on a film. Our book is coming out in August. Live shows, sponsors, a growing community, a loving community. And I couldn't be happier.
Same here. It really feels like everything we've done in the last 5 years has given me a sense of purpose and a sense of joy. I think more than
Yeah.
anything else, when Aryaan and I talk about our work, there is a sense of happiness we feel, which growing up as someone wanting to be a lawyer, every lawyer I ever spoke to, they
That's such a
hated
good
their
point.
godforsaken jobs, There was a part of me that thought, no, it's going to be so cool. I'm going to rise up the ranks in corporate America, in corporate law, and I'll
Yeah.
find it fun.
Yeah.
But the fact on ground is that you speak to anyone in that space and they're all terribly unhappy, either with their jobs or in everything else that is now remaining besides their job. And now when I think back at the work we've been doing for the last 5 years, I feel nothing but joy sitting here, telling the stories we tell and making something of these tales that deserve to be told to the world.
Yeah. I would like to pick on some funny moments we've had in this journey. But before we get into those, let's deal with the stark opposite emotion of funny, which is scary as hell.
Love
And
that.
with that, on to the second Chai Chithi story of the day. Story number 2. Never Really Alone. Hi Aishwarya and Aryaan. I want to begin by saying that your podcast, especially the Chai Chithi series, is a source of calm and joy for me. I don't get it.
Because you're not a true crime listener. And I understand why people give this hate. I fully
Hate?
understand.
I get hate?
No, not you. The notion that true crime can give you calm
Oh no,
and
that
peace.
and I'm on team. I mean, I can't hate you guys, but Chai Chithi though is scary, bro.
Yeah.
How is that giving you calm?
Yeah. I think it's
Yeah,
the same
wow,
logic.
what an answer.
I
How is it
don't
a
have
yeah?
an answer. Both these genres, I sleep to horror movies.
Ash, you are
last-
scared shitless during horror films.
Yeah, I've been sleeping to them. for the
How?
last-
How do you? Like
I don't know,
adrenaline is
man.
an
I can't.
anti-sleep
It is.
hormone.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. I genuinely don't
Okay.
have an answer to this anymore.
Okay. It's like you like the crash post the adrenaline.
But I'm falling asleep like halfway through the movie, so there's no post.
I think you fall us halfway through whatever. Look, English gone.
Gone,
Anyway,
gone.
I'll narrate.
Continue.
Read
yes,
it in
please
English for
continue.
myself. I'm grateful to you guys for making my rainy evenings pleasant. You have a lifelong fan in me. I was born in Kerala but grew up in Singapore. Please don't name the city in Kerala, else I'll that up too. I moved here in the late 90s when I was a baby, and life here is all I know. I like to think I'm a skeptic, but there have been 3 events in my life that have made me think otherwise. What I'm about to share with you is one of them. I apologize if this is long. That's what she said. No, sorry. The year was 2001. I was about 5 years old and I was living in Singapore with my mum, dad, and uncle in a rented apartment. I used to go to the local government kindergarten, which was a short walk from our house. For reasons only my mum knows but won't share, I was always afraid to be alone as a child. It's called being a child. Like, weren't you afraid of being alone as a child?
I can't actually remember that oddly specific.
Yes, because you were never
feeling.
alone. You had Chimpak and Chintu to keep you company. How would you remember? Whatever.
I don't know. Those must be your imagining. Don't associate them with me. I don't know who they are.
Okay. Are you Okay, where am I? Even in a room, I was never left alone. An adult was always around. So naturally, my mum, who was a homemaker at the time, would walk me to school and back. It was a Tuesday. School was done for the day, and I remember waiting eagerly for my mum, only to see my uncle rushing over to the school to pick me up. This was odd. He explained briefly that someone close to us had died and that mum and dad were rushing to immigration to get their passports, which had just been renewed. So for the next few days, it was just going to be me and him at home. Okay, alright. That's a weird thing to...
No, it's not.
No,
Why
I
is
mean,
that
it's not weird.
Yeah.
I fear it'll get weird.
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Which means no homework time, TV whenever I want, and McDonald's for dinner every night because my uncle is no chef. I didn't think too much about the reasons why my mum and dad weren't around and went home all excited for my first time without my parents in the house. Don't get me wrong, I love them dearly, but every kid knows the no agenda feeling is unparalleled. My uncle and I arrived home. Now, I won't go into too much detail about the apartment, but what you must know is this. The front door leads to the living room on the left, and straight ahead is the kitchen. The kitchen is rectangular, and like many old apartments in Singapore, it had the only bathroom at the end of it too. The opening of the kitchen faced the front door, and it was the only entrance to the kitchen. So anyone in the kitchen would clearly see who was at the front gate, and vice versa. My uncle decided to have a shower, and there presented my first problem. Still doesn't sound...
No. Why? One uncle and child are in the house together. None of them should shower the entire time there.
No, but and this anyway, okay. Let's see. This might be an over confession, but remember I said I was afraid to be alone? Well, I was so afraid that whenever my mum used the bathroom and no one else was at home, she would let me bring a book or my toys and wait inside the bathroom while she showered. Normal?
With your mom, yeah, normal.
That was not a dynamic I had with my uncle,
course,
who
fair
was
enough.
not aware of my weird fear. I didn't want him to know either, but he knew I was afraid to be alone, so he said I could wait outside the bathroom. This is normal?
Yeah, what's
Okay,
wrong?
Aishwarya.
What is weird? Okay, let's say Aryaan, you're taking care of a young child who's related to you, your niece, your nephew,
Yeah.
someone. Okay,
Yeah.
they say they're scared. They're a little baby. They're
Yeah.
scared to be alone outside.
Yeah.
They're used to staying in
Yeah.
the washroom
Yeah.
with their parent.
Yeah.
What is your solution?
My solution is to be the uncle that allows them to come of age by saying, sit in the living room. You're not going to hear me sing songs while I shower.
What are you
Because I
singing in
think
the
that memory
shower?
will scar them more.
Fair enough, but that's not weird to say that. Wait outside.
Okay. I waited at the small bar table outside the kitchen's bathroom while my uncle showered. Alright, we get it. I remember seeing the front gate of the apartment was closed from where I was sitting. If anyone were to show up, I would know. I played with my He-Man action figurine, making up my own dialogues and battles in my head. And for a moment, I wasn't alone. But suddenly, that feeling became real. Someone was standing behind me. I was certain. Oh, He-Man. I love He-Man. You don't have the Skeletor toy? If you did, you could make them fight, no? A gentle but excited voice asked me in Malayalam. I was paralyzed, not by fear, but by shyness. This was an adult man. I don't talk to strangers, especially adult men, right? So I sheepishly shook my head to answer him no. But I have Battle Cat in the other room, I managed to whimper. Oh, really? That is awesome. My parents never let me have the toys. Have you seen the shows? He asked excitedly in between chuckles. It felt like he was trying not to sound too excited, but inside he was. I nodded my head and he said, good stuff, right? That disarmed me a little. There were other things that happened before this that should have disarmed you a lot more. But again, Ash would say you're just a child and this is normal, so I'll let that go. Jesus, Ash. I slowly turned my head over my shoulder and looked at his face, only to find a clean-shaven, handsome man with gorgeous wavy black hair and muscular build. This is a child's description of an adult.
No, this is an adult's description of what they saw as a child. It's not the same
No,
thing.
no, no. This is clearly a
You
child.
think the child was thinking, what a gorgeous man.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No. Ganda dimag.
No, this is... Guys.
Dirty mind for our knowledge.
This is so unfair. No, this is clearly the child. She's recounting from the child, or he is recounting from the child's POV.
Yes, that's her description of what she saw
Back then.
But in words that she
turned
knows now.
around to her Chintu Chimpak equivalent and went, oh, handsome, muscular.
No. Weird. No, you are weird. That is the conclusion.
I agree.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with my assessment of this, but okay. Not much older than my uncle, but there was a childlike wonder about him.
So?
And you're deluded.
What's wrong with this?
You're playing devil's advocate. Guys, isn't this weird? Okay.
It's weird in a scary way, but it's not weird.
No, it's weird in a weird way.
What is... I'm genuinely so perplexed. What is weird?
Ash, there's an unknown man in the house while her uncle is showering and she is awaiting outside the door.
Yeah.
And her description of the unknown stranger is not... Her response is, childlike wonder, muscular build, clean shaven. That's weird.
Nah.
See? That's Delulu. You're Delulu. Here's what, okay, Mr. Tom Cruise had to say. Your uncle takes a while to shower, huh? He said, without breaking his stare. I looked back down, a little more comfortable, and said, yeah, he went in a while back. Suddenly, reason and logic returned to my brain. See, even the writer is accepting reason and logic wasn't part
But
of...
children are not reasonable and logical, and that's
Baba,
okay.
but you are saying her POV was right now as an adult. Now you are accepting it was a child's irrationality. Which one is it?
No. Aryaan has lost
Guys,
the plot. It's okay. Rip
Guys, you can
to the
see...
brain that
you
once
can-
existed here.
Guys, you can see what's happening. This is how she has gaslit me for the last 5 years. She makes a point, shifts the goalpost, forgets point number 1, and keeps asserting point number 2.
Not at all. It's
And
okay.
by the end of it, I'm apologizing for both the points.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, good. Move on. Get
A
it
little
going.
sneak peek into how we've managed to run this.
Get it going.
I asked myself the obvious question. How did he get behind me without me noticing him walk through the kitchen? Surely I would have noticed. Yaha. I plucked up the courage to ask him who he was, but when I turned around, he was gone. And as if on cue, my uncle stepped out with a towel around his waist and asked me who I was talking to. Like, the details this kid is giving.
But that's for the sake of the story. That
Okay, Ash.
I don't understand. I
Ash,
genuinely am
Ash,
finding it very hard to
you
understand.
have written the story in. This is... I can
Ciao.
totally believe you.
I know nothing about
Ash,
He-Man.
6-year-old Ash could definitely look at a handsome man and go muscular build, clean shaven.
Not
You
at
are
all.
totally like that.
Not at all.
Ash,
How?
come on. The amount of sports teachers and all she's had a
Not
crush
when I was
on.
6 years old.
No, but I wouldn't be surprised. 8th grade, 9th grade, she had
That's
a
not
crush
6
on
years old.
like every male
On
teacher
the-
in school.
What?
Well, every good
Have you
looking
all
one.
seen male teachers in Indian schools.
No. Good
What
looking
are you
one.
talking
Sorry, I mean,
about?
I'm back to
One-
saying. I'm back to saying sorry. Small
One
slip up.
young football coach.
And
That's it.
Yeah, I'll not get into it.
Yeah, that we'll not get into because I wasn't a
See?
teacher. That was someone
See,
famous that
childlike
you all
wonder. The childlike wonder we talk about, she
know.
possesses it.
9th grade, yeah. Relax.
I told my uncle in the bath towel the truth. There was an uncle here who was asking about my toys when you'd finished showering. His face filled with concern, and he immediately searched the apartment. Subtly, trying not to alarm me, he checked the front gate and it wasn't locked. I can only assume he genuinely thought an intruder had entered the home. He made sure the gate and the door were properly secured now. A little while later, my parents returned with their passports and began packing for the trip. I saw that my mum had been crying, so being curious, I asked why. She lovingly took me in her arms and gently explained that she was sad because her favorite cousin brother had passed away. She showed me a typical passport photo of him she found while packing, one with the blue background. He didn't look like any man I'd ever seen before. This was a chubby man with round cheeks and almost no neck and a buzz cut, which was poorly done with patches. His facial features, though pleasant, seemed very different and too small for his face. Only years later would I understand the man had Down syndrome and he died in an unfortunate and violent way, the very sad details of which I will not disclose here. My mother only explained that he was kind and not like other people, and that he was still playful as an adult. Therefore, he was often misunderstood and lonely. And she said something while she held me that would stay with me forever. You know something, honey? He loved He-Man too.
Oh my god. Just that visual of some unknown stranger that you didn't know was related or whatnot.
The good-looking, six-pack ab, handsome man,
Yeah.
curly wavy hair,
That-
childlike presence.
that helps a
unknown
little, but it's still hella terrifying. Well, of course, Aryaan.
A pretty
If
thief
Bloody
is
Mary
better.
was gorgeous, then
If
is she?
she's a baddie, a certified baddie. And to be honest, she's the kind of baddie that would push you and possess you. But when Bloody Mary possesses you, Aishwarya,
Mm-hmm.
it's like Hosey's Take Me to Church plays, you know.
That's not weird to him. After this whole spiel, that's not weird to him.
Okay. How about this? See what I'm about to do. I'll accept this is weird. This is super weird.
But I will not accept. And he's only accepting to see if I will accept or not. Otherwise,
No,
he
I'll
doesn't
accept.
accept anything.
I'll accept it. Bloody Mary, me having a relationship with Bloody Mary
Yeah.
is weird.
That kid was not having a relationship with the weird man
I've never said. I said
in
the
their
whole
house.
Ash,
Yeah.
guys,
So, not the same thing.
you can see her Delulu for yourself, and you can let us know in the
Comments will
comments if
reveal.
that story
Yeah.
is super weird or not. Let's talk about some super weird Desi crime
Let's
stories.
do it.
The one that comes to me off the top of my head is when 6 cops showed up to your house.
Right. So, that story begins in 2022 when my best friend and I decided to go to Thailand. This is post-COVID. And so, we got this incredible deal on a beautiful resort. And it's just the two of us there. It's one of our more chill days in Thailand. And we're sitting in our hotel room. We're having this kind of heated political conversation. And we're disagreeing. And in the middle of this conversation, I get a phone call from my mom. But I think I'm going to call her back soon enough once this conversation dies down a little. She calls me a second time. I miss the call or I choose not to pick it up. And the third call comes on my friend's phone. And at that point, I'm like, my mom doesn't call me like that
Yeah,
incessantly. Something's happening. So I obviously pick a call up. And her mom sounds so normal in her first few sentences. And, you know,
What were they?
hi, Ishu. What's going
that
on?
Sounds exactly like auntie.
Yeah, 100% like her. Like, what's going on? What are you guys doing? And I'm like, just chilling. We're just sitting in our hotel
Not
room.
for long.
Not for long. She says, the police has come looking for you. And I'm like, excuse me? She says, just send me a picture of your passport which shows the Thai visa to prove that you're not in the country, that we're not hiding you somewhere to evade arrest. I'm like, okay, let me just send it to you real quick. I sent her a picture of my visa. She's dealing with whatever it is, saying that she'll call me back. I'm obviously panicking. Aryaan is not in India. I'm calling him, trying to get him on call.
I'm in a
Something's
whole
gone down.
different time zone.
Whole different time zone.
I pick it up. I pick up the call.
Yeah.
And Aishwarya, in not a tone as calm as her mother's, reveals to me 6 cops have shown up at her place.
Yeah.
This was regarding a certain topic we talked about, and I'm so glad, Ash's dad is a former colonel in the army. He handled the situation with
Handle the
grace.
situation, meaning he fed them mithai. He brought in my school like report cards to show them bachcha padhai karta hai, she knows, she studies, she's a good kid, good student, nothing
Yeah.
wrong, all good.
Long story short, they said, come to the police station, whichever
Cyber police station,
wherever,
yeah.
in whichever state she had to go to. So Ash comes back to India, flies there. They have a file, I would say 3 inches thick, and they're showing Aishwarya pictures of terrorists saying,
Firstly, that file has screenshots of every social media profile of mine. It has my Facebook profile
Yeah.
screenshots, my Instagram screenshots, Desi Crime's Instagram screenshots, showing it to me, this is you, this is you, this is you. And I'm like, yeah. Flipping, random scary looking men start showing up then in those pages. And they're like, this person? I'm like, absolutely not. I don't know who this person is at all. Then next page, another scary looking man. So 4-5 people they show me and I'm like, dekho, I have no idea who these people are. Not friends with them on Facebook. Not at all.
like, oh, they probably followed you. They're probably
Maybe,
Desi Crime
I
listeners.
don't know.
The beauty of this story is that when Ash goes to the chief investigator's office to, for her specific case, Ash, you can tell us best how that situation was resolved.
Yeah, so basically what was happening that day inside the cyber department was that the main investigator wasn't there for a very long time. There was a rally happening outside and he was there on patrol and security and whatnot. So these files were being shown to me by his subordinate who kept coming and talking to me about the situation, the case. The main investigator is not yet there. He comes in hours later and he starts reviewing the case in the file, and now he's seeing what's in front of him and he's, looking at me, talking to me, whatnot. While reading all the details and flipping through that file and seeing the Desi Crime Instagram, goes, oh, I think my daughter really likes your podcast. And it was just this moment. Obviously, I'm not supposed to laugh like my dad had traveled all this distance with me, And this is a serious moment, serious matter. My dad and I are just like, oh, that's just, yes, very nice. Thank you so much, sir. That's really good. Hope that works in my favor. It did work in my favor. All was resolved nicely.
All resolved nicely. We are still here.
Yeah.
Yes, love the police.
Love it. Especially the ones whose daughters listen to us.
Yeah,
Huge
oh
shout
my
out.
God. Shout out, daughters.
My dad, to lighten up my mood after this, took me go-karting. We had a great time. It was a vibe. My dad, by the way, in the middle of all of this, told the inspector, literally in front of me, that this state where we are is where I was conceived. There's supposed to be a point of like bonding with the inspector, that same,
Yeah.
So all hilarious things
the
happening.
tagline of this should be "Beti ko podcast sunao, beti bachao." Something like that.
That makes
that makes no sense.
no sense, right?
Would like to cut it out, but people, this
Podcaster
is also,
bachao.
Huh.
Yeah, no,
No,
odd.
I was thinking something. Regardless, we got out of that safe and sound.
Yeah.
That was one of the sort of a Chai Chithi that happened to us only. What's a embarrassing memory you recall from this 5 years we've been doing this together?
I think the most embarrassing to me is a memory for which we have videographic proof. This is not the first time we've tried to start a YouTube channel.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The first time we tried to do it, I think, was a year and a half
It was
into
in
running.
2020.
It was in
It
2020.
was in 2020.
Very
When we-
quickly, we have jumped into this huge endeavor. Obviously, we don't have cameras. We don't have the money for a camera. Recording on our phones. We bought some tripods off of Amazon. We're living on campus in Michigan. So where are we supposed to shoot? There's no official set, but our library used to have these huge kind of conference rooms
my God.
for people to study. Now, this is also a period in my life where I'm about 15 kgs heavier than I am right now, right?
And I'm probably 35 kgs heavier than I am right now.
Hated ourselves. Did not at all like looking at ourselves in the mirror.
Self-esteem didn't
really
exist.
down in the dumps.
As will be evinced.
By the videographic proof. And Michigan is cold, so even inside it's a little bit chilly. We're like, in this footage you'll see. We are
Let's play the
you
footage.
see it. Yeah,
Let's
you
play
see it.
15-20 seconds of the first ever video podcast. Oh my God.
And if you want to stay sober, the game to play here is take a shot every time you see Aishwarya's face. Hi everyone. Welcome to the Desi Crime podcast. I'm Aishwarya, your host for this episode.
And I'm Aryaan.
Our podcast is South Asia's biggest true crime podcast, covering cases from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and so many more awesome Desi communities.
Now that you have seen the video, a few things would stand out. We didn't necessarily want to show our faces. So
Not at all.
Ash had her face covered by her hair.
My whole body covered with this gigantic puffer jacket inside, indoors in a
Me
library.
feigning drinking a coffee because I didn't know what to do with the awkward silences because the camera was always panned at me. So I'm like, I gotta be cool. I'm sipping something. Yeah, this definitely was one of the more embarrassing things. I think some more funny, embarrassing things were... I don't think you guys know this, another Desi Crime trivia. We are the first podcast in the world, to the best of my understanding, that did podcast reels. And I know it's a very common thing now to see the podcast cuts. It's the thing podcasts do. In fact, many people in India still think podcasts are 60-second clips where a guy talks into a mic. Ash was the first one to come up with this idea. And this is when TikTok was banned and Instagram started introducing reels. This is again end of 2020, beginning 2021, I think, somewhere around that. And reels were 30 seconds back then. And I was not savvy with, internet culture at all. And Instagram was very new to me. And Ash said, Aryaan, we put so much effort into making 40, 50-minute episodes. We can definitely do a 30-second reel. I'm like, Ash, we're not influencers. We can't do this. And what? At most, it would get 10,000 views. How is it going to help us? And she insisted. And as you've seen, I acquiesced. And I'm glad I did. I'm actually glad I acquiesced to this gaslighting bish. And our first couple of reels got millions of views.
They took off. It started off obviously 7,000 and then it paused at 7,000 and then 2 weeks later it became 12 but eventually over time all of those reels crossed 100k. So many of them hit 1 million. And I don't think people now on Instagram maybe don't fully remember, young people specifically don't fully remember how slowly follower growth happened on Instagram when reels weren't a thing.
Yeah.
I remember for 2 years before we introduced this concept and started doing this, we were stuck at the 3,000, 4,000 follower range. And I remember thinking that was so cool. And people would hear it and they wouldn't go, oh, crazy, but they would go, oh, nice. Like, we were building something, It used to be a nice number to have in the thousands. And then Reels happened. And it kind of fundamentally transformed, I think, the listener base, the audience-ship. And so
just as the social currency, 100k plus Instagram followers gives to a human being in today's landscape is insane. It's leverage,
100%.
Again, thanks to you guys. Not to suck you off, but thanks for following us on Instagram at Desi Crime. Check it out. But the first couple of reels are again quite cringy. And here they are for
Here's
you
the
to
montage
relish.
of the worst ones.
Suddenly, when in 2006, dead bodies of homeless people show up on the streets of Mumbai with beer cans next to them, everyone knows it's a serial killer.
Wait, so you're telling me that if you guys just pressed a bunch of random buttons then...
By December 2005, 15 children were reported missing to the police in the town of Nithari.
And now moving on to the next story in this segment, a story titled The Haunted Kindergarten. Hey, Aishwarya and Aryaan. I hope I spelled that right. She did not spell your name right, Aryaan, but that's okay. It's not your
I'm totally
fault.
not used to it.
Not your fault at all. New listener here. After getting pelted with uncountable ads while listening to music on Spotify, my curiosity got the better of me and I actually searched up the Desi Crime podcast. This is actually the first ever podcast I'm following on a daily basis on Spotify. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually glad about an ad that continuously popped up in between my playlists.
It's insane how many people loved your ad.
I don't know why.
People have come up randomly to me going, wow, what an ad you have. I never thought an ad could be nice. And you somehow...
Guys, genuinely, Aryaan has told me what the kind of ad I need to record, what the message overall needs to be. I know that. I've written a script out. I've quickly recorded it.
Shout out to Spotify.
Shout out to
Rituraj from Spotify for always helping us out with these things. I mean, he's been a great, great help. And he's like, send an ad.
Send this 30-second ad talking about, directing people to the podcast. And I've done it. And I'm not trying to be humble because I'm not a humble person. I would just say thank you for the compliment. Means a lot. I put the effort into the ad. But I did not. I don't know
How many
I
of you
don't
have
know.
heard her ad?
I don't know. Let's play it.
Yeah, no, don't play the ad. Jesus Christ. Should we play the ad?
I don't know. It's so surprising to me that people liked the ad and liked it so much.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I
Tooting
really
her own
appreciate-
horn, huh?
I'm so sorry to interrupt your music, but I'm Aishwarya, host of the Desi Crime podcast, here to tell you that there is more than just music available for you on Spotify. But it's true, and I
It's
appreciate
true.
it, you
People
guys.
love the ad,
Thanks. Anyway, on with the story now. Believe me, this is 100% legit. I swear it is. It's actually about an incident that took place in my school before lockdown, when I was in the 6th grade. Now, my school is a really old missionary convent, old unused buildings with locked up classrooms, and also with a centuries old chapel. It's just like the ideal package of a horror story. One such unused building is the old kindergarten building. The ground floor of the building used to house 3 sections of the KG classes. The upper floors used to have a music room, a dance room, and an infirmary during the time when our school also used to have a hostel. Now it's just a day school. But I've heard stories of those days from my aunt, who's also an ex-student, and from other seniors. We've only heard whispered stories about that KG building, about how a sister supposedly burnt herself to death in one of the closed classrooms, and how another boarding student hanged herself to death in one of those music rooms. Since then, there have been countless whispered rumors, gossip about what all took place there. Me and a classmate of mine, let's call her Shri, we used to give tours of the KG building to the juniors and to our classmates in exchange for 20-30 rupees or a fancy pencil box, those football erasers or a slime set, and loads of other knickknacks that 11-year-olds find fascinating. Now, I suppose I must explain where exactly the KG building lies in the campus in order for the rest of the story to make sense. The KG building could be entered through 2 doors, one on the front which faced the field and the new junior building, and the back door which faced the washrooms. We used to sneak in our tourists for the day to the KG building by the back door during lunch break under the pretense of using the washrooms. Usually no teachers would be around at that time, and thank heavens we were never caught entering. One fine day, me and Shri took our new guest, let's name her Sam, on the tour. We entered through our usual route and began showing her around. Me and Shri were experts at making up cock and bull stories and showed her each and every room with our own made-up version of why it was locked. We went to the 3rd floor and were showing her the old dance room where girls used to learn ballet. The door, although locked, had a slight gap between the hinges, and you could still see the old broken piano and the dusty floor if you peeked through. Now, Sam was one of those typical really innocent bhola bhala kids. Everyone always made fun of her since she was easy to pick on. Now look, we're all stupid when we're kids, and me and Shri thought it'd be fun to play a prank on her. So as she was busy looking through the door, I whisper shouted, "Guys, I can see a shadow." And Shri pushed Sam and we both ran away. We could hear Sam crying, "Hey, wait up!" But we were busy laughing and didn't respond. It was only after we reached the 1st floor that we thought that we should go back for her. If she complained to any of the teachers, we would be dead. So we climbed up the stairs to the 3rd floor again, but she was nowhere to be seen. Now the KG building is built around a courtyard. There are 2 sets of stairs on the opposite side that go down the building. Every floor had a veranda where you could look down on the courtyard at the center and look at the floors below. Since we couldn't find her, we assumed that she had gone down already. Just as we were about to leave the floor, I spotted her on the 1st floor going out in the direction of the front door. I nudged Shri and she whispered furiously, "Is she crazy? Why is she going out from there? If there are teachers around, they might catch her." Lunch break was nearly over and a few teachers might be returning to their classes, but we just hoped there weren't any. We went out through the back door and to our utter surprise, we saw Sam furiously searching for someone in the washroom cubicles. We called her and she seemed shocked to see us there too. She came running up to us, visibly upset. We asked her what she was doing, and she replied that as soon as we had left her, she had followed us, and apparently she had seen us rushing towards the washrooms. So then, for the past 3 minutes, she had been searching the cubicles, but she couldn't find us anywhere. Me and Shri stared at her and then at each other, and then we told her our version of the events. She looked even more frightened after hearing this and began muttering about how the ghosts were going to curse us for disturbing them as she began stumbling towards our classroom. Needless to say, me and Shri stopped with our tours from that day onwards, and till now, no one out of the 3 of us knows who saw what that day. Honestly, I'm just glad I didn't get haunted by any dead burning nuns or ghost students after that. I'm nearing the end of my school life now, and still I get the chills whenever I see that old abandoned building and remember what happened that day. Wow, this turned out to be longer than I expected. But if you're reading this, thank you so much for including my story, which is 100% true. Cheers and best wishes. R.
I mean, if you scare a child,
They'll see scary things.
yeah.
But she saw them specifically running into the washrooms. That's oddly specific, I feel.
I mean, I think it was a kid tripping balls.
But kids don't trip balls like that. It's not...
Ash, you had two imaginary friends called Chintan and Chetu. Like, you were tripping balls when you were a kid.
You know what Aryaan is reminding me of? He's reminding me of Dory, when Dory cannot seem to remember the name of Nemo and she calls Nemo Fabio and Fargo and some other funny names. They're
That doesn't take away from my
Sinda
point.
and Kamma.
Chintu and Chaman.
Different name every time.
No, I've been saying the same name.
All right.
Gaslighting is fun. I
We
should
have
learned that
videographic
from you.
proof this time too.
Yeah, I mean, scary story for the poor girl that
I think that's
these girls
terrifying.
bullied.
Abandoned kindergarten, burned nuns. It's all very scary to me.
Rife.
For ghost activity.
Yeah. Ash, with that,
Yeah, we've come to an end.
we've come to an end of an episode that's been a celebration of 5 years. Something cool we have planned for you guys, which if you're sticking to the end of this episode, we'll share with you and you'll know, is that next week we will be re-releasing the Burari episode, our first ever episode, but in a production manner that is much more high quality than the original audio recording over cheap Amazon mics. So we hope you like it. We're grateful for you guys. We're grateful for the Desi fam.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll continue to do this forever and ever. I sometimes ask Aishwarya, do you think we'll be 40 years old and still doing, hi everybody, welcome to the Desi Crime podcast with coarser voices and whiter hair. But I guess we will, as long as we have you guys with us. But until then, as we've signed off almost 160 episodes, this one too. Stay safe, stay crazy, and stay Desi.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Karak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling so we can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.